Greetings, heroes and Force users. Welcome back to Inside the Tauntaun, a podcast in the multiverse of fandom. I'm Alyssa Simmons, and I'm joined today by my two pals, Dino Nicandros.
You sounded quite out of breath there.
I didn't take a big enough breath. And Daniel Dawson. It's. I don't feel like the mic is gonna pick it up because it's gonna mute you.
We'll see about that.
All right. Well, today we are talking Dune Part 2. That's right. This is based on Dune by Frank Herbert, directed by Denis Villeneuve, screenplay by Denis Villeneuve and John Spates. And by God, we're Dune fans.
I don't know who you are or where you came from.
I am Iron.
I thought they smelled bad. On the outside.
Smells like a new car in here.
Inside the Tauntaun, this is our opening song. Alyssa, Daniel, Dino, talking nerd stuff, come along. Inside the Tauntaun podcast, please like and subscribe.
Hello.
Hello?
Hi there.
Well,
Oh man, we saw it. It was really great. Okay, I'm sorry. That was my general. It's done.
All right, yep.
okay. Well,
you for joining us.
Elaborate, Daniel.
On Inside the
elaborate
Tauntaun.
on your general. I guess we're just freaking diving right on into
I'm
this
sorry. I'm
thing.
just really excited about it. How are you guys? Are you good? Are you good?
That's irrelevant. It doesn't matter.
You're right. You're right. Nobody wants
You're
to
going to
know
get the
about
same
that.
answer.
Nobody cares. Yeah, no, I very much enjoyed it. It's rare that a sequel can actually be, better than the first one. Even I mean, the first one was excellent. Second one, just like, it was really great.
What format did you see it in?
I saw it in the most giant format that there was available. That being said, it's arguable that the Screen X version, like the one where it's like super wide that like wraps around you, so it feels like you're in like virtual reality version. That could be, but I'm still confused as to whether or not they just like how that works. Like, did they actually film with a camera that makes it that? I don't get it, but I saw it in IMAX 70 millimeter, which was insane. My God. I mean, just like even in the scenes, like, because it's obviously understandable when there's in those like giant like outdoor scenes where you're looking at these big battles and everything, but then you're like in these really intimate scenes where it's just like Timothée Chalamet's face, and his face is like 20 feet tall. It's just like, oh
just
my God,
enormous.
was that necessary? But it is, and it's wonderful.
Yes, it is necessary.
My God.
For a movie like this, yeah, totally.
And I ate a large popcorn with butter all to myself, which I don't know if you've ever seen that article that like compares a buttered popcorn at the movie theater to like Big Macs. Have you ever seen that?
No.
It's literally like 16 Big Macs or something like that. It's an insane number of Big Macs.
Not calorie wise. That's
No,
not possible.
I think fat wise. It's
because
like if you put
of
butter.
the amount of butter.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that checks out.
Mm-hmm. But it was
Okay.
so good.
All right.
Anyways,
Dino, your generals.
Yeah, I'm going to follow that with. It was a resounding success.
Mhm.
I really enjoyed the first one. I thought this one was far better.
Far, yeah.
And actually, I actually grew to appreciate part one more after seeing this one, because when I left part one, and preface this, I think I said this when we covered part one. I came into Dune as far as, or rather, I came into Dune as a newbie as far as
non-reader.
Dune
A novice.
lore. I haven't read them.
I can't remember. Had you seen the original movie even?
I had seen bits and pieces of it, and then
Okay.
and then I had watched the David Lynch after I saw part one. But so I came in relatively clean. I didn't know much about it.
And even if you've seen the original film, like
yeah,
the original film is it's a wacky, fun adventure. I mean,
Yeah.
it's wonderful in its own way, but it very clearly fast forwards through like so much of the story.
right. So
Anyway.
I came into it with open mind, open eyes, and
Open butt.
I think one of my I think really the only gripe I had with the first one, not really a gripe, was
You're so angry.
where they chose to end it. It felt
Sure.
I knew
Yeah.
part 2 was coming, but
Certainly.
there was something underwhelming about just leaving it there and then
Totally.
making us wait 2 years.
Yeah.
And
Could
but
you imagine
having,
a 6-hour film? I mean, yes, I could
I
actually.
mean,
now.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, Return of the King,
You might
tack
as
on
well
2
have
more
been 6
endings
hours,
and you're
right.
there. But I watched part 1 the night before.
Oh, nice.
Before I saw part 2, and man, like what a great decision to end it where they did. And
Well, yeah, I think, like you said, I think it you started to see like that he had a clear vision of how he wanted to sort of bookend
Yeah,
them, like how
absolutely.
they both end with like a duel of like something.
right, and well, this is getting detail oriented. So ultimately, that was one of the better movies I've seen in a long time. Even with the somewhat out of control hype machine around this movie, I've seen a lot of things said, and and it lives up to the billing in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's my
Agreed.
general. It was.
If
I
I'm-
saw it in 70 millimeter IMAX.
You did
as
too,
well,
yeah.
Giant format, and
It's amazing.
jeez.
Yeah, geez Louise. If I can
Alyssa.
add one thing,
Oh, okay.
Can't.
it generally made me excited about blockbusters again.
Yeah,
I
a
mean-
well-made blockbuster.
Yeah, like a really, really well-made blockbuster, and it's just, it artfully done, exciting to watch, and like, the really longness of the movie like didn't even occur to me, and yeah,
No, it clipped along pretty
yeah,
well.
it did.
Alyssa.
Mhm.
I hated it.
Wow.
No, not at all. No, it was absolutely awesome. I was enthralled
Mm-hmm.
by the way that everything looked and felt, and yeah, in so many ways parts of it looked exactly how I imagined them
Mm.
after reading the books, and some were completely different but in like surprising and exciting ways. Yeah, I just really thought it was brilliant. I couldn't stop thinking about it for like days after I'd seen it either. Like it just kept
Are you gonna
popping into my
cry?
head. Huh?
Are you gonna cry?
Yeah.
I mean, it looks like it.
I guess you can't stop thinking about it.
Can't stop thinking about it.
It's buried itself in me like a sandworm.
Should
Yeah,
drink
it's
the water
just-
of life.
The poison. Yeah, I just thought it was so great. I'm so excited for the next movie
Oh
because
man,
Dune Messiah is my favorite book of the three.
it sounds
Um,
very cool.
Yeah, it is a wild ride, and
Yeah, from what I
apparently-
understand, it's very all over the place, but in a
Yeah.
good way.
Yeah, it is. It's wild, and the it's interesting that you say like that part 2 you enjoyed part 2 more than part 1. I think that
Mhm.
checks out because the first half of the first book is it's just so much exposition. You're having to
Yeah.
learn everything.
You're
So it does
Teaching
take
all the family names and
take a
the
really long time to be like, okay, what are we doing here? What is the story about?
What
Who
is
are
the
we?
spice melange?
Denis Villeneuve did a really wonderful job of cramming all that exposition in a really digestible way.
Yeah.
Particularly in part one, and then we got a nice rehash from Princess Irulan at the beginning of this one that kind of reacquaints you with the world ever so briefly, and I really appreciated that.
Yeah, that was necessary.
But it cuts out a lot of time you don't have to spend doing exactly what you say the book does, and just lay out every little
I was
detail.
very excited to see to have her introduced like that, because the start of almost every single chapter in the books are her diary entries.
Awesome.
Very
So
cool.
it's sort of this, even when you haven't met her yet,
Yeah.
you're like, who
the fuck
is
this?
who is Irulan? Like, who is that? And then
Yeah.
Princess Irulan, and you're like reading all this stuff, and then you get to know her, and you're like, whoa. And yeah, where things go in the next book, as you can imagine, with Chani and Irulan, like, it's crazy.
Wacky inflatable flying. Did you see the original film?
Yeah.
You did. Do you? Am I right? Like, does she sort of narrate like the opening? Because I remember it kind of opens with the
yes,
right.
She does.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what I thought.
I read recently that Frank Herbert, in his original draft, or in his original transcript, even he had he didn't have her die. He had Alyssa, who's Paul's sister, who we saw very briefly in this,
right?
As,
the narrator,
as Anya Taylor-Joy,
and that was you're the scholar here, Alyssa, so you can kind of help lead this discussion since you've actually read it. But one of the big departures in part two is the fact Alyssa isn't really a part. Her role is she's still in the womb, whereas several years go by in Dune, where Jessica and Paul are with the Fremen in the desert, giving time for Alyssa to be born and so on. But did you like the choice to kind of make her a prescient fetus?
It's funny because I don't know what's more weird, like, because like in the original film we had this like very small child being like actually speaking,
and how could this be?
yeah, exactly. I think I liked the choice of having her be in the womb, and having Lady Jessica be like, kind of, being able to understand her and speak for her and stuff. Like, I thought that was, and just the way that they animated her in the womb and like getting the poison and everything, like, I thought that was a super smart choice, and I preferred that to how they did it.
There's some artistic shit
in that
going on.
vein, overall, so you've seen the David Lynch version.
Right.
Did you see Did either of you see the
nightmare? It was a nightmare, as he likes to say.
Did either of you guys see the miniseries they did of Dune and Children of Dune?
I never got to see that.
Nope.
No.
Interesting. Well, it's on YouTube, and I watched that a couple of days ago. But
the whole thing?
Curious. Yeah.
Wow. How long is it?
6 episodes.
Oh, that's it. Oh, okay.
And then Children of Dune is basically the story of Dune Messiah and Children of Dune put into one miniseries, and that was done in
interesting.
2003. Okay, worth it. I think.
Cool.
But Alyssa, as far as conversion from book to Denis Villeneuve's realization of it, do you think he does the book itself justice in a way that maybe others have not?
I do. I know that there are a lot of people that don't feel that way.
Oh, really?
There's a lot of like the, just like we talked about when we covered like Rings of Power, like there's
always the
Tolkien
naysayers,
gatekeepers,
sure.
right? There are the people that are like, this is my everything, and they're not going to they're not ever, no matter who does it, it's not going to be look or feel like what they pictured in their mind. So
the only like well, I wasn't even a negative. It was more like a disappointment, but like they understood like the choice was kind of like the idea of the mentats, like the like computer people.
Yeah.
Like not having them as like prominent. Actually, they're completely absent from part 2.
I think that they will be more involved in the next movie.
Yeah, that would make more sense.
Yeah, because there's without giving anything away to those who haven't read it or are wanting to read it. Yeah,
but yeah, there was even an article.
I don't think that this part of the story was necessary to have it be that present.
Denis Villeneuve, he said that. Let's see here. I had the article. He said, one of the most painful choices for me on this on this was Thufir Hawat. He's a character I absolutely love, but I decided right at the beginning that I was making a Bene Gesserit adaptation. That meant that mentats are not as present as they should be, but it's the nature of the adaptation. Adaptation. Oui, oui.
Yeah, you have to make tricky decisions like that when you're gonna adapt such a thick book into a movie. Like,
I mean, imagine he could have easily made the movie like, well, and from what I understand, those shots were actually shot like they're it was on the cutting room floor, so he was in the movie.
Yes,
I want to see that version. I want to see the 4.5-hour version. I want to.
Well, which interestingly, Denis Villeneuve said no one will see the deleted scenes. He's not ever releasing them.
Sorry, Daniel.
Just like freaking,
No
I mean,
Snyder
David
cut
Lynch
for
is the
you.
same way. David Lynch is like, no, I'm not gonna do that.
You saw what he wanted you to see.
Yeah. I guess. Well, David Lynch's reasoning is a little more cynical and sad. Like, he doesn't want to go back to it because it hurts too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a nightmare.
Okay, so in a movie jam-packed with action and imagery and really compelling themes,
so compelling.
Is there a moment in particular that stood out to you that really elevated the movie, or a series of moments?
Oh, for sure. Oh, before I answer that question, can I add something about the choice for to have the embryo talk instead of the child? I don't know if it was like, I'm sure there was numerous reasonings behind it, but I think like just in technicality, like I think he saved himself a lot of because it's hard, like finding a child actor to do that and make it like, and also like fit the vibe of the film that he's created. Like, it would be so easy for that to like kind of take you out. Like, so to have this sort of like her just like speaking to it and not really seeing it talk, like, I think that you sort of like use your imagination. You don't have to like, see this like child with blue eyes having a funny voice. Like, I think it was probably smart. It fit the vibe of the film better.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. But as far as a like particular moment that like really took my breath away, like one particular moment that took my breath. I mean, there was so many amazing moments. And I can't think of one.
Wow.
All right, Alyssa.
Well, I mean, the whole sequence with Paul riding the sandworm was
easily so good,
so freaking epic. And
I'm curious, did they in the book? I'm curious about this, and I'm curious, B, why they didn't do this in the film, because maybe it's just awkward and like why do they need to they never show anybody getting off of the worm.
Yeah.
Like,
well, and they don't, I believe Denis invented the way they get on them.
Yeah,
which was very cool.
Yeah, it doesn't like him ride the riding of the sandworms is just kind of like it's not like a super descriptive.
They don't say like how it
Weirdly.
happens and like because I just like imagining them getting on like that part. I think they like in the film they made it make a lot of sense. It's almost like catching a wave, like
Mhm.
surfing almost. But getting off, I imagine, would be even more tricky because like I just don't
Just like
understand
jumping
how.
out of a moving train,
Yeah,
basically.
like, quite
with their
literally.
tents and stuff and all the.
Like, how do you
Good
not
luck.
pass away? Yeah, I don't. I'm sure somewhere out there, some nerd has described how this would work, but yeah, maybe he's got like a little hang glider.
Or
just,
for
like,
some other nerd, it completely took them out of the movie, and
That's all they could think
Denis
about for the rest
Villeneuve
of the time.
has destroyed this person's childhood.
Yeah, but that like I had thought about it and I was just like, how does that work? But that was a very
Yeah,
epic
that
moment.
was so epic.
And the music
I
is always
loved.
dope.
I was completely entranced with the scene, where the water of life is being like extracted.
Oh yeah, that
from
was
the baby
really
sand. Like,
cool.
that felt so. Yeah, there were a few moments there that one and their sand walking, the movement,
Oh,
like
very cool.
the
Yeah.
like step, rond de jambe, glide to the side. Like it was
Pas de
so.
bourrée. Il est
Yeah.
jeté.
It was like it was so without calling it anything else. Like it was very just otherworldly.
Yeah,
Um,
totally.
I loved that. I loved the
So
extracting
unique
the
to
water of
this
life
film.
poison. Yeah, it was just so. Even Austin Butler, who I will talk about him in a little bit. I was
love how
worried.
bothered everybody on the internet is about him right now, and I just don't.
He just has, for me. Okay, I guess I'm going to talk about it right now.
Here we
I guess
go.
we're here. So
It has nothing to do with his acting or his voice acting or anything.
Sure.
He has, as an actor, all I could do whenever he was on screen was imagine how absolutely insufferable it must be to work with him.
To be in the presence of
To-
Austin Butler.
I just think it would be absolutely insufferable.
Is it just because like he comes off as like type A, like I don't know, like
I don't know. I don't know.
Like
he
he's-
grew
like
up
he's-
he grew up in the same city as me, okay, in Irvine, California.
oh sure.
And so when the whole like sort of put on Elvis dialect was happening and all of his like
Yeah.
interviews post that movie, I was like, "Oh, you're a psycho."
enter Fade Rotha.
And yeah, that I mean that character is pretty psycho.
Sure. And
Um,
honestly, he did. I thought he did a great job. I mean, like
I
we're
did
going
too.
from.
I really did. I just kept imagining
That's
how
so funny.
absolutely annoying he must be to be around.
Originally played by Sting.
Sting.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which is hilarious.
Him. Yeah, I gotta give Austin Butler a lot of credit, and the choice to mimic Stellan Skarsgård's
The voice match, yeah.
voice was
No, it was a very cool, awesome choice.
Yeah. Yeah,
I really couldn't stop sympathizing with all the other actors in that movie.
But it's like there's all these it's like it's so mean, but it's but you have the same thought. You're like, why does he like talk like that still? But like in all of his interviews, like it'll show like the three of them together, like Zendaya, Timothy. And him, or Timothy. And like Timothy will say something, then Zendaya will say their answer, and then he says his answer, and it's always just like blah, blah, blah. And people will stitch it in and like repeat what he says in his voice because it's so funny. I'm like, why are you talking like that? That's not your voice. That's not your voice.
But all
but-
that to say, I was able to remove myself from my personal feelings.
From the movie theater.
I was
Just like,
able to completely remove myself.
like, I'm not watching this anymore. I'm leaving.
Get out of here.
I
No,
need
he
to
was
go.
great in the part, and I thought it was very well acted. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I honestly, that entire sequence of his introduction, like in the gladiator like thing, like
so cool.
that was pretty breathtaking and like so unique to, because like the choice to film an infrared camera like for the entire scene, yeah, it was really stark, and just like a bold move.
Well,
Yeah.
and a credit
it
to
felt so
Greg.
ominous.
Yeah.
A credit to Greg Fraser, the cinematographer. This was one of the rare movies in recent times, particularly in the sci-fi genre,
Yeah.
where all of the different locations feel not only lived in and futuristic and ancient at the same time, which is kind of the hallmark of Dune. But
Sure.
but each location felt so aesthetically different from anything we've really seen of late.
Yeah, like you didn't need to have like a little like title thing at the bottom of the screen to let you know where you were.
No, and we had a couple in Dune, part
Yes.
one, but
Totally.
but we didn't need them this time. It's like, okay,
No.
we know where we are, and but
They did
yeah,
a great
the
job
scenes
at-
on Getty Prime were well, since we're talking
I was
about
going to say, what are
Feyenoord.
your standout moments?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so definitely those scenes, the arena scene, and but I felt like so now I've seen 3 adaptations of Dune.
Yeah.
I haven't read the book, but based on what I've seen on screen, this one, apart from being the best acted Feyd-Rautha or the best characterized Feyd-Rautha, I felt like they did a really terrific job of setting him up as Paul's foil much earlier in the story, so the payoff at the end is much more significant, and it kind of shows the machinations of the Bene Gesserit, maybe setting him up to be another Kwisatz
choice.
Haderach, like
yeah.
this is our failsafe. So yeah, the Getty Prime stuff was great.
Yeah, I don't remember that being nearly as clear in the original film about him being the other choice.
Well, and then having Leia Seydow playing Margot Fenring and having this whole sick kind of seduction, but then also a foil scene to Dune Part 1 where we see the Reverend Mother test Paul. So it was a really great callback
Put
to
your
that,
hand
parallel
in the
to that.
box.
I'm just obsessed with the Bene Gesserit in general. They're just
Yes,
like,
I know you are.
My God, I just love. They just like the way that they talk about these men, like it's like as if they're like less than animals, like they're they're to be manipulated, to like they. Yeah, it's just like they're so calculated and they know exactly what they're doing.
And have been honing their skills for 10,000 years. I mean, precisely choosing bloodlines and literally manipulating religions. We'll get to that in a second.
Yeah,
as far as the bigger thematic stuff. But
totally.
As far as my standout moments, I've always thought Timothy Chalamet is a good actor. I don't think he was ever my favorite.
Did it ever occur to you once while you were watching that you were also watching Willy Wonka?
No.
Okay, good.
So yeah, put another notch on his belt for doing something different. But I think he really took a step forward in my mind. Specifically, the scene where he goes into the Council of Fremen leadership. And gives that speech where
it's kind of terrifying.
I kind of knew what to expect.
I honestly didn't see that coming. Like,
but only because I've seen,
all the other Dunes.
So I have some idea of what they're going for here, but this was the first
Even in the
time.
original Dune, I felt like he came off as a lot more like warm.
That's what I'm getting to.
Soft.
Yeah.
So what they did in this adaptation that really took me off guard was like, Paul is not the good guy.
No.
Maybe the lesser of bad guys, but
And maybe I'm curious if they made that choice in the original film because there was really no intention of going past like the end of the Dune book.
maybe or two, and this is me speculating. The way movies have long been made. I mean, a good guy sells ticket. Everybody wants a hero.
Everybody needs a hero,
they
right?
want the
And
lead
in
to
many
be rooted for.
regards, Paul has some aspects of a traditional hero.
Sure.
But when he he spends much of the movie having seen into the future.
Yeah.
And
where like
and knowing
billions
what
of
path
people die.
he has to put humanity on, and the sacrifice that comes with that.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who have read the books, you know what that is.
The
It gives
Holy
you a very
War.
specific number. But once he embraces that and realizes he has to go full hard ass, it took a really dark turn. And
Yeah.
layer that in with what we were just talking about, the Bene Gesserit having manipulated the Fremen, creating
An entire
the myths
planet
for
of
the
people.
Fremen. And this guy being tailor-made to fulfill the prophecies they created themselves. It's all very cynical and dark. And
And the fact that the Bene Gesserit have been like all taught like how to like be able to withstand drinking poison, or I can't remember like what they had a cooler name than that, but there's like a technique that they use so that they can drink poison and not die from it. And the fact that she has been teaching the mother has been teaching Paul like all of the Bene Gesserit like ways, so he like knows how to do that too. So when like he drinks the water of life, that he doesn't die from it. Although I actually am curious because I don't want to bounce around too much, but about the idea of this sort of religion that the Bene Gesserit have created more or less for the Fremen, and the prophecies. This Zendaya's character, her name is like Desert Spring. And like her tears are supposed to like wake up the Lisan al Gaib. But I'm curious whether or not you think that particular moment was a fake out. Like he didn't actually really need her to do that, but like it was just another like
I think it's
layer
that.
to make them all believe that was the case. Because in the movie, I felt like they purposefully left it vague, where like you could be led to believe that like, oh, this is actually like was supposed to happen, and it was God's will or whatever it is. But like it seems like that even Paul himself was like playing dead so that he could do the Bene Gesserit's will, I guess. Is that kind of your? It sounds like Alyssa agrees, but what about you, Dino?
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think it. Again, I keep going
I think
back
he
to
was. I think he was faking it so that it would be yet again another prophecy
Believable.
fulfilled.
That bastard.
And even more than Paul, Jessica,
Super evil.
Once she's literally drank the Kool-Aid.
What a spooky turn!
Drank the blue Kool-Aid.
And her
everything
costume
she
just kept getting cooler and cooler.
But everything she does is a calculated attempt to make people believe.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
that speech that she made like fairly early on in the film about like starting with like the weakest ones, like that was such a spooky
the most
thing to
impressionable
say. I was like,
yeah.
ew. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not ever. I think thematically, since we're kind of talking about this right now, that is my favorite part of the Dune books, is this idea that a created religion is able to control people,
Mm-hmm.
and that is like its main purpose is to do that. It's so sinister.
And it's kind of interesting too that like a lot of people who, from what I understand, because I haven't read the book, but even from seeing the film and the original film specifically, that if you only read the first book and if you've only seen the original film, you like probably completely missed the point.
Yeah.
You know, because it seems pretty clear that the author's intention was to kind of poke at just kind of the creations of religion in general and how
the second
dangerous
book is
they can
called
be.
Dune Messiah.
Yeah.
Well, and speaking of people having maybe missed the point,
mhm.
I've seen a lot of commentary floating around, just as I've really spent the last 3 or 4 days kind of engrossing myself in Dune lore and just trying to better understand what it is I've watched. And I'm seeing a lot of, particularly online, criticism that this is yet another typical white savior narrative.
Mm.
And
You're like,
you want
I
to
don't-
talk
yeah,
about
you-
missing, respectfully, you want to talk about missing the point entirely. I
Yeah, you're like,
believe
let
this is a
Denis
giant,
cook a little bit more.
this is a giant warning for messianic figures.
Correct.
And the pitfalls of saviors. Putting
Yeah,
your faith
Zendaya
in
is
one
the
person.
only one that gets it in this movie.
And Paul, it's not to say Paul is a now my opinion of him is he's horrible, but what he chooses to do in the end is objectively horrible,
Mm-hmm.
because it's a by any means necessary sort of thing. But you see him wrestling with he doesn't want to be these people's savior. He tells them that repeatedly.
Although even then, like, I almost wonder if at least a portion of that like feeling was put on because he needs the Fremen to believe that he doesn't want it. Because it's like, oh my gosh, he's so humble.
I think he is still grappling with it in this book. Once you get to the following
sequels.
Well, yeah, and Alyssa, you know better than I, but there is a big old spoiler. Well, several big old spoilers, but he has some concerns about where this. If I walk down this path,
lots of people are going to die.
Happen, which is going to,
and isn't it like many years later, isn't it? It's like it's like at least 12 or 15 years later, or something like that.
12. Messiah is 12 years later.
Okay, yeah.
So that's 12 years.
So you're
of
like sprung
jihad.
forward, and you're like, whoa, this is freaking scary.
Yeah.
And like
very
how much power he has, and like.
Well, the danger of a cult of personality, and Stilgar, played by Javier Bardem, who has ignited the internet with memes and
the memes
gifs
are so funny.
But jokes aside, and these memes are very clever, but how desperate these people are to believe in something, and then to know that belief was curated by somebody else.
Yeah, it's so
to a designed effect, and then to end
I'm
up where
looking forward to like I don't know if there is any realization on Stilgar's part in the coming films, but you know, I really can't wait to see that dynamic, and you know, if he has some kind of an arc where he's like, wait, this isn't as good as I thought it would be. He was, I think Javier Bardem like did such a phenomenal job.
Yes.
I did too.
For numerous reasons, but also he was so funny too, which I was not expecting at all. Like
probably I think the only sort of comical relief of the whole film, for sure.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, truly.
I was actually like another thing I was very surprised about, the thing that I thought was going to be funny, which I was hoping it wasn't, and it wasn't, which is good. Was Christopher Walken, because I don't know, Christopher Walken just has to exist, and he's funny.
It's so true. He says like 2 words, and you're like,
but you know, Daniel, to your point, it's funny you mentioned that. I was watching an interview with him from one of the red carpet premieres, and they asked the interviewer asked him, how do you
live with yourself?
How do you prepare yourself to play, you know, an emperor, a figure like that? And he was talking about some advice he received a long time ago, where he said,
if you ever are in a movie called Dune,
it's
So
more
specific.
about what the people around me are doing that, or what the people around you are doing that make you the emperor. So he said, all I had to do was kind of show up, and how everybody treats you kind of informs who you are. So he said, I just showed up and let a bunch of good actors, you know, treat me how they will, and that's who I am.
Okay, cool.
But
it worked though. I mean, because seriously, I like Christopher Walken like more or less disappeared like into that person, because I was very much expecting a different vibe. I was just expecting more of a Christopher Walken vibe.
Well, and then
again,
compared to
I
other,
think I was excited because have either of you watched Severance on Apple TV?
I love that show so much.
Oh, Dino, you have to watch it.
Yeah, you really need to watch it.
Significantly more serious role for him. So I was like,
oh,
okay,
certainly.
If this is any indication of what we're gonna get in Dune, I feel great.
Yeah, well, and he ended up being a great choice, and especially compared to the other iterations of Shaddam IV, you actually do get bits of his regret, and there was affection for Duke Leto, and but then when he tells Paul, you know, you want to know why I had your father killed, it's because
he was weak.
He was a man of emotion. Yeah,
he was a good man. That's why I killed him.
Ugh. Jeez,
so sad and so dark. Oh God, the truth hurts.
I thought this movie in particular was really heavy-handed on like the Vietnam allegory a little bit of just watching the Fremen disrupt spice production. And
jumping out of the sand out of nowhere, and
the kind of guerrilla aspect of it was really thrilling to watch, and I mean, unbelievably executed. I have to say, like the CGI work done in both of these movies,
it just goes to show,
as clean as I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I think
we all get well, actually, I should say because there is a very significant difference. I was about to say, like, well, it shows that when CGI is done well, it can be very, very good. But like that being said, because there, whose interview was it? Oh gosh, what's his name? The other Harkonnen, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Dave Bautista.
Oh, Dave Bautista,
Bautista.
Raban.
He was talking about like the differences. He was talking about the differences between his experiences on Marvel specifically, and working on this. And the hugest difference for him, and it was just like, was the just being in full sets, and just being in the locations, that just made it so much easier to be a part of the, just to get into the character and know where you were and who you were. So the CGI was very complimenting to what they already had, but the CGI also was done extremely well. Like,
yes,
money. They put money in that.
Yeah. The first time that I think that I was like was when the Harkonnen like fly.
Oh, the giant
over that like freaking. I was like, my
cliff.
gosh.
Yeah,
it was so beautiful.
Well, yeah, and what was kind of like cool, what was really cool about it, because I think oftentimes you see, like, flying in films or jumps or whatever it might be, like some stunt trick. And I think unfortunately we've seen too many behind the scenes. I think that's kind of ruined the magic for a lot of people. I love seeing behind the scenes things, but it's really kind of almost like the equivalent of a magician telling you like how
Right.
magic works.
Yeah, because I watched that and I was like, I actually don't know how they're doing that.
Literally same. It looked
It looked like something from another world, really.
yeah,
Like I
and
was
just
like,
because like the location of where they were doing it too.
Mhm.
Like I don't understand. I mean, like maybe cranes and like big ass cranes. I don't know, man. It was I agree.
that
It
was
was
wild.
cool.
Yeah.
Very, very cool.
Another moment that stood out to me that I actually was not, I don't think I was really prepared for was, I'm blanking on the specific what they call this place, but it's the pool of the pool of water.
Yes, with
Mhm.
all of
It's been collected
like
from,
the dead Fremen. Yeah.
and I had full body chills
Oh,
when
such a
he's
cool.
explaining what that is.
That's like so beautiful.
And
Well, on the reflections of everything, I think as well, like seeing water when most every landscape you're seeing in that film is desert, sand, and
And just out of
harsh
respect that
weather
they won't
and-
touch it, like
Yeah.
but to borrow
And then-
to borrow a kind of a biblical allegory, that
well, I'm sure they were
from
doing
dust
it
we
purposely.
came to dust we return, and
Mm.
they traded that for water in this, and I
Yeah.
was like, oh wow,
Yeah.
like that, how moving that is.
And then for them, I mean, it was a beautiful setup too, because then for the Harkonnens to come in and completely decimate it was like, the equivalent of I mean, like beyond a war crime. It's like
Mhm.
the greatest evil you can do upon these people, kind of. So yeah, I thought that was very cool too. Very, very cool. It's pretty sweet, I guess.
Was there anything for either of you that you were like,
I
could have done without that, or just like maybe it just didn't like completely work for you?
I wished the third act was actually a little longer.
Oh,
Once we finally get going on,
Get
I thought,
going,
I mean,
yeah.
it was thrilling.
like when we got to the war part,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
I kind of agree, though. Yeah, the war, like as a huge of a thing it was. It
happened
did.
very, like, very bang bang.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
No pun intended.
No, for sure. That being said, it like was epically insane, especially to see it on the IMAX 70. That
Yeah.
giant like nuclear explosion. Yeah, it just like it was a beautiful frame to see
And
that.
then the worms,
with
the worms coming out of the ground and them riding them into the.
Mhm.
It's like, oh my god.
Yeah. I seeing like what was it, like 3 or 4 worms like coming out of the storm, like yeah, man, that
Well, and
was
something also that kind of felt sinister was the Atreides stockpile of atomics that Gurney
totally
tells them all about. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's like enough to blow up the whole planet, like
and they're like, the
The
fuck,
whole planet? And he's like,
that
well,
doesn't sound
you know what I mean?
nice.
Yeah.
He's like JK lol, but yeah, like his desperation to like have power, that he was like willing to blow up like all of the spice.
Yeah.
It's just like, well, if I can't have it, then no one will.
Well, and
like,
that whole last sequence where the last vestiges of Paul kind of disappear, you get that moment when everybody bows to him in the throne room, and Chani gets up and walks away.
Mhm.
And
mhm.
his eyes kind of linger on her for a bit, and there's regret, and then Stilgar comes up to him and is like, look, the ships are in orbit, what do we do? And Paul says, send them to paradise. And I was like, oh my god, we lost him. We lost
Yeah.
him.
He's gone.
In Jesus' name we pray. Make them all dead.
And that's a cliffhanger. That is just
quite the cliffhanger.
oh my god.
But yeah, like Zendaya's character is like, it almost kind of like the voice of the narrator, like the voice of the guy who wrote Dune. You know,
Frank Herbert.
yeah, that old guy. um, yeah, it's so funny just being the only, like, seemingly the only voice of reason in the universe.
She spends much of the story expressing skepticism about Stilgar's sect of belief, and
yeah, but she still loves him too, which is like so interesting. And I am very much looking forward to. I don't know if I want that spoiler, but I mean, she's got to come back in part 3, right?
Well, I'll tell you that she's in Dune Messiah. She's in that book. Like the main character in the whole book. So
sweet. Yeah, I'm very excited about it. Cause yeah, it's just it feels like it almost, I don't know, if I was trying to read the tea leaves, it feels like Denis Villeneuve is trying to, like, it's like secretly her, you know how like what's his face in Guardians was trying to, like, he was saying that it was secretly Rocket's story, like from the first to the third film. That it's like secretly her story, like her giant arc. Because I mean, we did, like, in the very beginning, even in part 1 where we barely saw her, and we all joked that it was kind of like a weird, like, fragrance commercial for Zendaya.
well, I mean, she was in 7 minutes of that movie.
Yeah, right.
She really was. It was 7 minutes.
Yeah,
well,
but just like the that he felt the need to include her, like, as premonitions or whatever it might be.
Yeah, well, I mean, that I don't want to give too much away where
yeah, but it does
things are
feel
going.
like he's alluding to
But
something.
Well, and
it
I was
is she's incredibly, she's vital in Paul's entire arc.
Yeah.
And Denis Villeneuve in an interview was talking about how he recruited Zendaya for the first movie and said, "Look, your part's really small. If you sign on to this one, I promise your part in a part 2, if we make it, is much bigger."
Yeah.
He said the same thing to Florence Pugh when she signed on to this one.
Yes.
Said,
And he's right. This part,
yes.
this movie for
Both
Florence
of them.
Pugh was like the last movie for Zendaya.
And both of them have a big role.
Although, could you imagine...
Irulan and Chani are
pivotal.
Yeah.
I just can't imagine, though, like even the need to, like, be, like, coddled like that. I mean, I'm sure they didn't like need that, but
they're
like,
both massive movie stars. They didn't have to say yes to this.
Well, but also, I mean, like, I don't know, like I just can't imagine Zendaya being like, "Oh, I'm only in 7 minutes. Fuck this shit. I don't even. I don't want to be in this."
And
like,
just hearing
giant
about how everybody
blockbuster
talks
film.
about Denis Villeneuve and really his filmography the last 10, 15 years. He's kind of earned the status of Christopher Nolan in that when he calls an actor, they say yes.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, I don't need to read this. Rebecca Ferguson was saying as much. Like,
with
I watched an interview with Rebecca Louisa Ferguson Sundstrom, who plays Lady Jessica.
Yeah.
And
she's a fierce lady.
Yes. Apparently they were all called every day at like 5:30 a.m. Like, that's kind of like a Denis staple
thing.
He likes the workday to just start psychotically early.
Jesus.
But she was like, we'll do it for him because he comes to work and gives them exactly, I mean, she's like, to be honest, he does most of the work that actors should be doing, like, as homework by themselves. Like, he has all of that already ready to go. And
that sounds so nice.
And, you know, Dune is this is like his everything. So and you can feel that. You can feel
he's
that
a
someone
fan.
who really loved the books and who really like has been dreaming about bringing this to life actually got to do it. So that's pretty awesome.
Which is so interesting about what you just said about Denis kind of doing having everything mapped out to a T for the actors. Like he could answer all the questions about the characters. And we were just talking about Christopher Nolan. I was watching an interview with Gary Oldman, and he said Christopher Nolan doesn't give notes. And he's
really?
like, he expected when he cast you, he was like, you'll figure it out. This is your character. And he said, Gary Oldman said,
gotta be so nervous.
Gary Oldman said one of the only notes he ever got on the Dark Knight trilogy was he was giving some speech as Gordon, and Christopher Nolan came up to him afterwards and he said, there's more at stake, and then walked away. And Gary Oldman was like,
Okay.
yeah, okay, all right, I got it.
I honestly though, like that's like it's such a better way to say. I mean, like we all roll our eyes when a director says, "Could you raise the stakes?" Because it's like it seems like such a lazy, note. But I get it though. I understand. It's like, okay, yeah, like this is like we need to like this needs to feel like it's a bigger deal. But like saying it like that is a much better way of saying it.
And probably saying it in the tone I imagine Christopher Nolan said it in. It's like, oh, he doesn't mean louder. He doesn't mean more theatrical. He means like,
this is a bigger deal than you think it is.
It could all be over.
Yeah. That's cool.
But
also terrifying.
Interesting approaches for two directors now who make very large, very successful movies.
Yeah.
Two brothers on their way.
Speaking of that, Denis has said that he will only do one more Dune movie.
As he should, because my understanding of
the rest of it,
where things go, it gets out, a little out
there.
Yeah,
sure.
But
this is
we
supposed
also
to be
have
like
the Dune Prophecy series coming out. Y'all know about that?
No, tell us more.
So there is a Dune Prophecy series that'll be on HBO Max.
Oh, okay.
And it's set 10,000 years before the events of Dune.
A prequel.
Yeah, so this shows how the Bene Gesserit came to be.
Cool.
Are we in Butlerian Jihad territory for that? Like war against the machines? Thinking machines?
Sure.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's rad. Yeah, so the reason why, for those of you that haven't read the books or nothing like me, the reason why the Mentats exist is because of what Dino was talking about, the machine.
So they actually wrapped in December of 2023.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize they were already shooting.
It is scheduled to premiere on Max late 2024.
What the hell? I'm completely
now. So the co-screenwriter of Dune Part 2, John Spates, he was the showrunner on Dune Prophecy, but then moved over to co-write Dune Part 2 with Denis.
Are we to understand that? I mean, yes, it's 10,000 years before, so things are going to look different. But aesthetically, are they?
Yeah, is it the spiritual successor to it, or is it
the Villeneuve vision? Do we know?
I mean, I sure hope so.
Me too, because.
But yeah, I mean, this is sort of Dune Prophecy is mostly based on Sisterhood of Dune,
Sisterhood of the Traveling Dunes,
which came out in 2012. Fiction novel by Brian Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson.
So this is one of the prequel books that Herbert's son wrote.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Okay, cool. I am very hella excited about that.
Yeah, to just see the formation of that and how that all came to be,
and the great houses and the.
Well, the Bene Gesserit is some of my favorite part of the Dune lore. So the fact that we get to see any more of that, I'm thrilled about it. And it will be Bene Gesserit.
We'll be getting some more Dune this year.
Hell yeah.
Well, that's a good surprise.
Seeing the what's her name? The mother. What's
The
it
Reverend
called?
Mother.
Reverend
Gaia
Mother.
Helen,
Thank you. What's that?
I'm trying to remember her full name.
The
Gaia
actor.
Helen.
She's so fucking great. But just like seeing her at the end,
Ryan.
like getting knocked back by Paul's voice, I'm like, it's just like it's such a beautiful
Charlotte.
setup.
Tessa Charlotte Rampling.
There
her-
it is.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought that it was a wonderful setup because you're just like you see her like in part one as being this sort of like untouchable character, like nothing can harm this crazy witch of a woman, and then like he just knocks her back. It's like, oh shit. I thought that was fun.
Yeah, just thrilling. It was just thrilling.
Thrilled. Absolutely thrilled. I'm certain there's a lot of stuff that we're leaving out. But
Oh, sure. We just kind of talked about our favorite parts, but is there
I'm-
anything else that y'all want to share before we wrap it up?
I'm thoroughly enjoying kind of getting to know the Dune universe, and
I think you should read the books, Dino. I think you really
I
like
think
them.
I will.
I do need to read them.
I do now know the full story of Dune Messiah because it is wrapped into the miniseries, the
Mhm.
2003 miniseries. So I really dark, disturbing,
Mhm.
Weird.
sad.
Yeah.
Dark and sad, dark and sad. But I mean, like, I know I keep on hearing that it's like dark and sad, but like, is there any like, does it end on any kind of like hopeful? I wonder how Denis is gonna spin it. If it's literally just gonna be like, religion is bad, and then you just leave with a really bad taste in your mouth at the end of the movie.
I mean, my takeaway again, without any remote spoilers, it bad to worse.
Wow. What? That is a lot to look forward to. How exciting.
Abandon all hope.
How
Mhm.
long did it take for part 2 to come out again? When did part 1
2
come
years.
out? Was it 2 years?
Mhm.
Do we feel like it's probably going to be more than 2 years, huh?
So Denis said he has like 3 other movies he's
Mm.
He's got
kind
on
of
the
got his
docket
hands
before
in.
that.
So it could be. He said it could be a little bit, but I know Hans Zimmer has already started writing music for it.
Of course he has.
That's rad.
I read that he'd already given Denis like 45 minutes of music or something before he started wriing part 2, just
That's
to give him
insane.
inspiration. Which is like-
he did an interview where he was talking about after the first Dune movie came out, like he went on tour and did like Dune concerts, I guess. I was like, oh my god, I wish I would have seen that. But like I guess their opening number that they did in that show wasn't even from part 1. Like he had written it like afterwards, and it ended up becoming like the main theme for part 2.
Got it.
It's like a cute little preview that nobody knew about. That's
Yeah, I mean,
sneaky little witch.
I think they're going to need to take the time because the scope of number
It's
3
bigger.
is
Yeah.
quite large.
Because it like they do go back to Arrakis, but it's like it's much more than just like Arrakis and
Well, yeah, and knowing Denis, he's probably going to at least fill us in on 12 years of
oh sure,
jihad.
oh god, that
A lot of bad
prologue is
stuff.
gonna be intense.
Well,
That was
Dune.
Dune. Part 2.
if
At least some of our favorite parts of it that we talked about.
there's anything we missed, you Dune heads, let us know
Yeah.
You bunch of Dune heads
on the YouTube, on the Instagram, on the personal emails. You can call us.
Carry a pigeon.
Carry a
All right.
pigeon.
Well, thanks for listening. This is Inside the Tauntaun. I'm Alyssa Simmons.
And I'm Daniel Dawson.
And I'm Dino Nikedros.
May the force be with you.
Always.
Inside the Tauntaun podcast. Please like and subscribe.